What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope you're all doing well. Time for some MLB scores from yesterday. Angels lose to the Red Sox. Red Sox win 2-1. Got Nationals over the Guardians 7-6. Yankees shut out the Twins 2-0. Garrett Cole a complete game, 2-hit shutout. He's off to a great start this year. Rays over the Blue Jays 8-1. They continue their hot start to the season. Phillies beat the Reds 14-3. A day after losing 13-0. Diamondbacks beat the Marlins 5-0. Atlanta over Kansas City 5-4. Baltimore beats the White Sox 8-4. St. Louis beats Pittsburgh 5-4. Mets beat Oakland 4-3 in 10 innings. The Cubs beat the Dodgers 3-2. Seattle beats Colorado 1-0. Milwaukee beats San Diego 1-0. And Texas beats Houston 9-1. San Francisco Giants extend Logan Webb. They gave him 5 years, $90 million. The last couple years, he's emerged as one of the better starting pitchers in baseball. He's been their ace the last couple years. He's their best starting pitcher. They lock him up. And the Minnesota Twins just extended Pablo Lopez a 4-year extension worth just over $73 million. He's off to a good start this year. They trade Luis Arraez, the reigning batting champ, to the Marlins for him. And he's a really good frontline starter as well. The New York Mets are calling up Brett Beatty. They're the number 2 prospect in their system, one of the best third base prospects in all baseball. He had a couple quality last year, 194. I think he had like maybe 35, 40 at bats. No, he got called up in August. Had a big spring. Looked like he might make the team, possibly start at third base, but the Mets decided to start him in the minor leagues. But he has been tearing the cover off the ball in 9 games in AAA. He's hitting .400 with 5 home runs and 15 RBIs. He has been absolutely lighting it up, and they're going to call him up. Not sure what the next roster move. I'm hearing they possibly could maybe let go of Eduardo Escobar, who's really, last year had a great September. Overall, a decent year. He did a lot of other things. He played great defense at third. He ran the bases well. He was a good leader. But outside of his hot month in September, where he was one of the best hitters in baseball in September, was very inconsistent last year. He's also a poor start this year. So it's possible they could possibly even DFA Escobar. Possibly, I would keep him. At least, platoon him at DH with Vogelbach. You can still use his glove at third. I mean, Beatty has made strides defensively, but I think Escobar is still a little better defensively. You could use him to pinch run, just as a veteran leader in the locker room. He's always been that way. He's a guy I would definitely still keep. I'm hearing possibly Tim LeCastro you could DFA. Now, he's your 5th outfielder. You have Tommy Pham as your 4th outfielder. LeCastro's speed is definitely a value. He's one of the best pinch runners in the league. That being said, you could also use Escobar to pinch run as well. So his services may not be 100% needed. So we'll see what the Mets do, but Beatty's being called up. NHL Playoffs are about to get underway. They start tonight. Let's preview the series, and I'll give you my picks for what I think wins the series. We got Vegas hosting Winnipeg. I think Vegas wins in 5. Winnipeg just slipped in. Vegas has had a really strong year. Despite battling injuries, still were the top seed in the Western Conference. They got an incredible offensive attack. Mark Stone was one of their best players, if not their best player. Been out for a while. They might get him back. The goaltending, which we thought would be a major concern after Robert Leonard went down for the year before the season even started, has held up. They got their blue line is led by Alex Pietrangelo, who's a little older, but is still a really good player. And I think they have a good chance of getting to the finals. I'll take Vegas. Edmonton against the Kings. This is a really good series. Obviously, you got the league's MVP, Connor McDavid, 64 goals, 150 plus points. Absurd. You got Draisaitl added 128 points. He had 40 goals from Nugent Hopkins. You got pretty good goaltending there. Stuart Skinner, one of the better young goalies in the league. Then you got the Kings, who I like as well. They're a solid team. They got a nice mix of veterans and youngsters. You still have a couple of veterans from those teams that won 2 cups. I think back in 2014. Still have Anze Kopitar, still a really good player. Still got Drew Doughty, still a really good player. Bringing in, upgrading from Jonathan Quick and bringing Yunus Korpisalo has definitely helped their goaltending. Bringing in Vlad Gavrikov in that trade has helped their blue line. They did a good job at the deadline. This should be a really good series. They faced off last year. Last year, I thought the Kings would win that series because Edmonton had a lot of trouble getting out of the first round year in and year out. But of course, Edmonton last year had a nice little run to the Western Conference Finals. I'm gonna take Edmonton in 7. Kings might be arguably better overall team, just better all around team. And Edmonton is not enough to build around, but two best players in hockey, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. But I think those two, will just how good those two are. They can will them to a series win. Probably not much further, but I think those two will do enough to at least get them to the second round. Those two are guys who every year in the regular season were putting up crazy numbers, 50 goals, 120, 130 points, but their play style kind of need a little bit of adjusting, which is why they couldn't get out of the first round. I thought last year they were able to make those adjustments, which is why they were able to get to the Western Conference Finals, and they did a surprise. But the team needs more. Colorado against Seattle. So Colorado is the defending champs. Colorado had a lot of injuries this year, but still ended up having a really good year. Kudos to them. They're mostly healthy. Gabriel Landeskog, your captain and one of your star players who haven't had all year. You thought you might get him back for the postseason. They will not get him back. That being said, Kale Macker, arguably the best defenseman in the league, but after a while, they should get him back for the postseason. So on paper, it looks like Colorado should blow out Seattle. But Seattle's a sneaky team. Obviously, kudos to them getting in the playoffs, and this is their second year as a franchise expansion team last year. They're a solid team. They got a really good young team. They're really good, solid offensively. Adding Philip Grubauer has already helped their goaltending and defense. They're a really solid, sound team. I think could give any team a run for their money. I think Colorado wins in 6. I think they're just overall better, more experienced. Of course, they're the defending champs. But Seattle, I think, makes the series interesting. I'll take Colorado in 6. And last but not least, in the Western Conference, Dallas against Minnesota. Another really interesting series. Dallas, the team that's solid offensively. They're very good defensively. They're a veteran team facing off against Minnesota. You got Curly Kaprizov, who's obviously incredible. He's got 40 plus goals. This is gonna be a really tight series. I'm gonna take Minnesota in 7 games. I feel like Minnesota every year comes in. They're a really solid top 5 team in the West. They look like they can make a run. Last year, I thought they might have a chance to go to the Cup final and losing in the first round. So I completely wrong about that. Hope I'm not wrong again. But I'm gonna take Minnesota in 7. Boston against Florida. I'm taking Boston. I think Boston sweeps. Boston is incredible. They set the record for most wins in a season with 65. Set the record for the most points in a season of 135. They couldn't surprise the trophy with like 3 or 4 weeks left in the season. Next best team in the league, I think, was Carolina, who they cleared by about like almost 25 points. They got an incredible offensive attack led by David Pastrnak, who scored 60 goals. They got probably the best goaltending in the league was Linus Ullmark, who's probably the Vezina Trophy winner. His backup, Jeremy Swayman's really good. Pastrnak would have won MVP if Connor McDavid didn't have his historic year. They're extremely good. They got 4 really good lines. They're really deep. They brought in a lot of pieces at the trade deadline. They're already a top team. And they brought in you're going to halfway Dmitry Orlov and Tyler Bertuzzi for Craig Smith and draft picks basically. This team is the best team on paper. They're the most talented team on paper. They're extremely deep. They're dominant. Jim Montgomery's probably coach of the year. Kudos to him, overcoming. I think he had a drinking problem, getting a second chance, and absolutely killing it this year at the Boston Bruins. And Florida, obviously last year, we're winning the President's Trophy. Then lost in the second round to Tampa. This year, they made the coaching change. They decided not to keep their interim coach. They made the coaching change, and they, after a tough first half where they were, on the outside looking in the whole year, much better in the second half. We're able to sneak into the postseason. Still really good offensively, but their defensive goaltending does not match up to other teams. They're not going to be able to stop Boston. Boston is going to be scoring 4 or 5 goals every game, probably. They average 3.6 a game. Florida's not going to be able to stop them. And Boston defense is one of the few teams that matches up against Florida's offense. So this is just an overall just Boston just an overall so much better team. I think Boston sweeps. Toronto against Tampa. Rematch of last year. Tampa won the series in 7 last year. So on paper, Toronto should probably win in 6 games. They got they're incredible offensively. Austin Matthews incredible. We got Mitch Marner. John Tavares had a great year as a guy. The last couple of years, wasn't quite what he once was, but he had a really good year. You had Ryan O'Reilly at the deadline. They've had solid. The goaltending has held up. Sean Keith overall has done a good job. Seems like the right move to keep him after they about maybe firing after the first round loss last year. Tampa, who's still good, but not the same team that was in the Cup final last 3 years, winning twice. Vasilevsky, obviously still one of the best goalies in the league, but didn't have the best year for his standards. So on paper, Toronto should definitely win this series, which is exactly why I have Tampa winning in 7. I don't trust Toronto. They have not won a Stanley Cup since 1967. 1967. My dad is, I believe, 54. I'm sure he'll shoot me a text and correct me if I'm wrong, or tell me, ask me why I'm aging him on the podcast. But for context, I believe he's 54, either 53 or 54. And he was not born when last time the release from the Stanley Cup. I mean, they have been out of the first round like 20 years. The Atlanta Thrashers have won a playoff series more recently than Lennon. They have not been a team in like 10 years at least. Toronto's gonna go up 3-2. I'm like, oh, they finally did it, and then Tampa's gonna win the next 2. Tampa in 7. They just got they got too many vets. They got so many vets. Kucherov had a big year. Stamkos, Hedman on the blue line. Vasilevsky is one of the best playoff goalies ever. When he retired, he may be the best postseason goalies ever. His numbers in the postseason are video game numbers, I think. Although he was still like a really good goalie, still a top probably 7 goalie in the league. But this is a guy who's arguably the best goalie in the league. For his standard, weren't great. But even last year was a guy who was like, yeah, probably like the 4th or 5th best goalie, but still, like, he wasn't in the best in the conversation like he usually is. And the playoffs, he was inhumane. I think the same thing happens. Tampa in 7. Carolina against the Islanders. The Islanders slipped in over Pittsburgh, got the last spot. They're early get Carolina. If they got Boston, they would have been swept and lost by 5 goals every time. Carolina, I think, might be my pretender. Like every year, they're really good defensively. They got very good goaltending. They just don't have enough scoring for me. It's the reason that the team that we thought could win the whole thing last year, and then they blow a 3-1 lead to the Rangers in the second round last year. They still have enough scoring. Islanders are really good defensively. They got great goaltending led by Ilya Sorokin, one of the best young goalies in all of hockey. So I got a lot of people saying the Islanders could make a 6 or 7 game series. I'm hearing people saying they're going to win. They're going to win the series. But remember, the Islanders can't score. They're not good offensively. They are not going to score enough. This could actually be a really good series. This could be a playoff hockey. You see a lot of 1-0, 2-1, 3-2 games. They got 2 really good defensive teams, not so good offensive teams. I think they're both elite defensively. Sorokin's a little bit better goalie than what Carolina had, but Carolina still has really good goaltending. Plus, their top 4 defensemen with Brett Burns and Pesky and Slavin is as good as it gets. Both are great offensively, but Islanders are one of the worst offensive teams in the league. There's like 4 or 5 guys that can beat you. They got Brockhouse who had a really good year, 30+ goals, 75 points. Obviously, you bring in Horvat at the deadline and lock him up. They just got Matt Barzalek, which is definitely a big piece to get back. The addition of Pierre Engvall helped the third line. But this team is not good offensively. Carolina's more experienced. I'm gonna take Carolina. I think Carolina wins in 5, honestly. The Islanders, they're just a little inexperienced. Lane Lampert, I know he's been Trout's assistant for a while, but it's his first time as a head coach, obviously his first time as a head coach in the postseason. Carolina, I think, is much more well coached. I love what Robert Brendan Moore's done. Both are really good defensively, and both are great offensively, but Islanders are even worse offensively. I think Carolina is going to overpower the Islanders. Every game is probably a 1-goal game. Should be a really fun series. It'll be typical playoff hockey. I recommend everyone watch the series. But you're not gonna get 7 games, but you're gonna get 5, and it's gonna be Carolina. New Jersey Devils versus my New York Rangers. This might be the best first round series. This is going to be an amazing series. New Jersey. When was the last time these two teams played in the playoffs? I mean, the Rangers beat the Devils in the Eastern Conference Finals in 1994 to go to the Cup. Of course, ended up winning it. I don't know if they've played in the playoffs since then. I would have to do my research on that. I'm not sure if they have. If that's the last time, that's crazy. But by the way, we got like every New York team besides the New York Jets made the playoffs last year, plus the New Jersey Devils made the playoffs as well. The last time all these teams were in the playoffs was 1994, of course, when the Rangers won the Cup. This is going to be an amazing series. We got two teams who are excellent offensively, deep offensively. You got the Rangers, you got Mika, Panarin, Kreider, and then you add Patrick Kane and Tarasenko, who are older but still solid offensively. You got, Kakko has played better. Lafreniere played a little better in the second half. Defensively, Adam Fox leading that blue line. Igor Shesterkin's one of the best goalies in the league. Rangers are very good defensively as well. They're playing really well. They made some nice moves at the deadline, getting Kane, getting Tarasenko. Devils, who all year have been just unstoppable offensively. Jack Hughes is an incredible player. So many young guys that could score with anybody in this league. And then you add a stud like Timo Meier at the deadline. Thomas Tatar's another guy there. The Dougie Hamilton on that first defensive pair. Vanchek's had a really good year in goal. But I am going to take the Rangers in 7. The Devils get the Rangers a little bit of problems this year because the Rangers defensively are very young. And the Devils, they are relentless offensively. Because they're really young. Not only do they have one of the most offensive attacks in the league, definitely top 5. They're so young, so they're really fast. Not only can they score of anyone, they get off the ice like that. If you're on your toes the whole time, the Devils run on 3-on-1 and the puck's in the back of the net. You got to be on your toes the whole time on defense against this team. There's no room for error. Rangers are more experienced. Rangers are also really dangerous offensively. They're also very deep. Shesterkin is a top 3 goalie in the league at least. And I think the Rangers, combination of their just being more experienced, and although Vanchek's played very well, and the Rangers still have the leg up in goaltending, which is what matters in the playoffs in the NHL. Rangers are 7, but that should be an amazing series. I'm really excited. A little nervous. Devils are very good, but I'm confident the Rangers win, and I'm also really excited. It's going to be a fantastic series between my Knicks playing the Cavs. I got two of my teams who a little nervous they could lose, but I'm confident that they'll win, and I'm very excited because those are both going to be 2 incredible series. I am very, very excited. Some other news: the Wild extended Frederick Gaudreau 5 years, $10.5 million. And they don't have that much money, but they all came up. Craig Anderson retired. He's on the Sabres now. That was very cool. He won his last game, and the entire team mobbed him. He's had a great career. Great career. Was in Ottawa for a very, very long time. Played 20+ years. Was a solid goalie for a long time. He's a guy who obviously at one point took a leave of absence because his wife was sick. He was always a great man. He had a really good career. That was a really cool moment. Congrats to Craig Anderson. We had, of course, the season, the NHL just ended, so we had some people getting fired. So the Penguins fired their front office. Not only their GM, Ron Hextall, which we saw coming for months, but also their team president, Brian Burke. They're fired after 2 seasons. Penguins team that at one point was, top team in the league. They've won several cups the last, 10, 15 years. They've won 3 or 4 cups. Last couple of years, the team has definitely gotten old. It's not been the same. I've had trouble even winning a playoff series. Last year, they blew a 3-1 lead in the first round against the Rangers. And this year, they missed the playoff. They missed the playoff for the first time in 17 years. Crosby is at the end. Malkin is at the end. Letang is at the end. This team is not built very well. They're not good defensively. Might be time for a change. So Burke and Hextall are gone. Capitals fire head coach Pierre Laviolette after 3 seasons. Laviolette, he's had very good careers as a head coach, although I think the game has passed him by. Capitals did not win a playoff series under him ever since they won the Cup, and then Barry Trotz stepped down immediately and then took the Islanders head coach job. Of course, now he stepped away. He's going to be the GM of Nashville Predators next year. They promoted Todd Reardon. They lost in the first round back-to-back years. They axed them. They wrote in Laviolette. The previous 2 years they lost in the first round, and this year they didn't even make the playoffs. Alex Ovechkin, who is still amazing, still one of the best players in the league, one of the greatest goal scorers of all time. Looks like he might pass Wayne Gretzky for the most goals in NHL history. Is still amazing, but he is at the end. And this team, they sold up at the deadline. It was just time for a change. He came in with, I think he had more than enough talent to win at least one playoff series. He didn't win a single playoff series in 3 years. Anaheim fires Dallas Eakins at their 4th season by Laviolette went 115, 87, and 27. Dallas Eakins out in Anaheim 100 and 147 and 44 in 4 seasons. It was time. He was not a good net coach. He didn't have a great team, but they weren't even competitive. They were the worst team. They were the worst team in the NHL this year. It reminds me going to basketball like Steven Silas and Houston. No, we didn't have a good team. The team wasn't even competitive. They should have taken at least a small step forward. And Anaheim, Dallas Eakins didn't have a very, very good team in Anaheim, but they've been rebuilding for ages, it feels like. They haven't even been competitive. So he's gone. Columbus fires Brad Larson after 2 seasons. He was 662, 86, and 16. Last year, they missed the playoffs. Wasn't all on them because the Eastern Conference was very strong. The 8th seed was the Washington Capitals, and they had like 101 or 102 points. This year, so this is a team that was, I had like 90-something points. We're the first team out in the Eastern Conference. Adds Johnny Gaudreau, and then was the worst team in the Eastern Conference this year. Their GM was like, we need to change. Very disappointed. I don't know what he was doing this year, but he's gone. Those are your changes in the NHL. We'll see what happens there. NBA playoffs are underway. We got most game ones are done. We got the Sixers beat the Nets in game 1, 121-101. James Harden at 23 points and 13 assists. Mikal Bridges drops 30 in the loss. They is overpowered by the Nets in that one. Celtics over the Hawks. 112-99. Jaylen Brown 29 points in that one. Boston's probably going to sweep them. Knicks beat the Cavs in game 1. 101-97 was a great game. My Knicks pick up game 1. Brunson at 27 points. Hart 17 points, 10 boards. Spike at 38 points, 8 assists. I have been doing some digging. It appears that he's doing. I've been doing some digging. Spike is really good in the playoffs. So no, I said in the past, he's a little inconsistent. He's really not, honestly. He's really good. But Knicks take game 1. Great game. Kings beat the Warriors 126-103. De'Aaron Fox 38 points. NBA record for a playoff debut. NBA history. Kings take game 1. Now when the crowd was buzzing, De'Aaron Fox lit the beam. And the Lakers beat the Grizzlies 128-112. AD, who had an injury scare, ended up being fine. Had 22 points and 12 rebounds. Ja hurt his hand in the 4th quarter. He came out of the game. Says he's in a lot of pain. Might not play game 2. So keep your eye on that. He beat the Bucks in game 1, 130-117 in the 1-8 matchup. Jimmy Butler, another incredible performance. 35 points, 11 assists. Middleton at 33, 9 in the loss. Giannis got hurt in the game. He hurt his back. He got hurt in the 2nd quarter. Left the game, came back. Then went back to the locker room, didn't return. Though Milwaukee is optimistic he can return for game 2. We'll see what happens. But he took game 1. And also Tyler Hero's up 4 or 6 weeks with a broken hand. He died for a loose ball. Hand kind of skidded on the across the floor, and he stayed in the game for like a minute. He was like in like the corner. He was like holding his hand. He shot a 3. He was like way off, and he was clearly writhing in pain. He was playing. He shot the ball with a broken hand. So they won't have him for the rest of the series. They might have to get to like the Eastern Conference Finals at least to see him again. That's a big loss for the Heat. Clippers take game 1 from the Suns, 115-110. Kawhi at 38 points, big game for him. Durant 27, 9, 11. But Clippers get game 1. Russell Westbrook, who was horrible, was 3 of 19. Big defensive stop at the end there on Devin Booker. Locked him up, and then as it was going out of bounds, he threw it off of him. Great play by Russell Westbrook. Kudos to him. And then Denver thrashes Minnesota. think it was like 109 to 80 or something. Absolutely thrashed them. Jamal Murray, 24 points, 8 assists. They thrashed Minnesota in that one. That's what we got for the NBA playoffs so far. Looking like could be a really exciting playoffs. Miles Bridges got suspended by the NBA 30 games. He already has 20 served apparently, so if he gets signed next year, he'll have to serve 10 more. Pistons interviewed Charles Lee as well as Kevin Ollie for head coach. So Charles Lee makes a lot of sense. Top assistant for the Milwaukee Bucks, but a head coach candidate for a while. That definitely deserves to be a head coach. That being said, Kevin Ollie, it's a very out of the box. He was a decent coach at UConn. He was there for 6 seasons. Technically, he won 127 games. They didn't all count. He went 127 and 79 in 6 seasons. In the second year, they were in 2014. They won a national championship. They're overall solid. They had tour tournament appearances. Now, his last 2 years, his wins were actually vacated. There was a big recruiting scandal, and he ended up getting fired with cause for it. He eventually sued the school, and they said that they wrongfully fired him, and they ended up paying him the $10 million they said that they didn't have to pay him. But he's interviewing for the Detroit Pistons job. Very interesting. He was a decent head coach in UConn. At UConn. The recruiting stuff wasn't really his fault. That was more behind the scenes stuff that wasn't really on him. But interesting, he's never been in the NBA, but he's actually the head of coaching and player development of Overtime Elite, which become big. So he's actually been very involved with that. So he actually could work out. So we shall see what happens. All right, on to the NFL. Big news: the Philadelphia Eagles. This dropped not too long ago. This probably dropped like an hour or two ago. Eagles extend Jalen Hurts, hour or two from when I am filming this. Eagles extend Jalen Hurts 5 years, $255 million extension with $179 million guaranteed. He's the highest paid quarterback in the history of the league. Hurts gets his bag. Bucks will not trade Devin White to request a trade. Pro Bowl linebacker. The whole thing firm. And Budda Baker requests a trade from the Cardinals. So he must be the highest paid safety in the league. But what's going on in Arizona? You got Kyler Murray, your starting quarterback, supposed to be your franchise quarterback, #1 pick, who's inconsistent, a complete man-child. He's recovering from a torn ACL, might miss half the season. Budda Baker, who might be your overall best player with Kyler hurt, maybe the league's best safety, he's requested a trade. DeAndre Hopkins, star receiver, he's expected to be traded or cut. He most likely won't be on the team next year. J.J. Watt just retire on the greatest defensive lineman of all time. Zach Allen's your top pass rusher from last year. Zach Allen left in free agency. Your top corner from last year, Byron Murphy, left in free agency. Your tight end Zach Ertz, one of the league's best tight ends, he's coming off a torn ACL. Their owner Michael Bidwell was accused of cheating, discriminating, and harassment in his organization. Arizona is a dumpster. Their new head coach, John McGannon, is really goofy. So his introduction to his player was really weird. What is going on in Arizona? Something is wrong there. The Dolphins just signed Chosen Anderson to a 1-year deal, formerly known as Robbie Anderson. He struggled the last year or two between Carolina and Arizona. Maybe now being the third option in Miami, maybe that'll help him. We got a bunch of guys not reporting to camp. Saquon Barkley, Evan Engram, and Josh Jacobs, who have not signed their franchise tags and will not show up to the first week of voluntary workouts. Remember Quinn Williams, Jets All-Pro D tackle, who they're trying to get an extension that haven't gotten it done yet. He's not showing it up. As a Jet fan, please get that done and please get the Ronald trade done. We go on to golf. By the way, Rory McIlroy got fined $3 million for skipping his second designated event of the year. He did not skipping the RBC, as well as he also skipped the Century Tournament of Champions. That's a pretty big fine. No, he can't afford it, but still. And Matthew Fitzpatrick wins the RBC Heritage. He beats Jordan Spieth by 1 stroke in the playoff. The reigning U.S. Open champ picks up another win. So congratulations to him. The next tournament on the docket is the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. That starts this Thursday. And by the way, when it comes to the WWE, there's a lot of rumors. Oh, will Triple H, not have creative control? Will Vince just sent an email to the company, and Triple H said that Triple H is has full control of creative, and he will not seek to get it back. And Nick Khan said they're always going to communicate on thing for Triple H is the sole creative guy. So good news there. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.